A very good morning and thank you for joining us on a Friday 10 a.m. So today is the first of 9 panel sessions where we will cover really fulfilling work for each and every individual. And I'm so excited about today's panel topic because we are going to be talking about the future of jobs and specifically, how do you fit in? So before I go into it, I want to introduce my wonderful panelists. We have Stephen, who is the founder of Community of Learning, amongst many other appointments that you also have, right? And then we have the very lovely May Sim, who is the founder of Selfstrology. So you will realize that the panelists that we pick is going to be a very interesting session where we actually challenge what really is the future of jobs, right? We look at the definition. And then we have CHELVIN, who is the director of Job Skills Insight from SkillsFuture. So I think she would give us a very clear structure of where, what the government is doing, right, in that sense, to set the human capital up for success, right? Because I believe that in every country, the greatest asset is the people. So, and you would know me by now, I'm Junia, the founder of Mom Space, and our heart is really to start thought-provoking, visionary, and yet very authentic conversations. So on to this topic, right? The truth is that COVID has impacted us even more. And within just 2 years, right, starting from 2020, I was searching, right? 85 million jobs have been lost, but by 2025, 97 million new jobs will be created. The difference is there's going to be rescaling and upscaling because the future of jobs is such that most individuals, 1 out of 2% will need to change their job, number one. Number two, 40% of the job force will need to change my scope, to redefine it. Yeah. Okay, so looking at this, right? And the hope is so that we create the future of jobs that is sustainable, that is inclusive, and that is really fair. Okay, so let's have fun. Okay, as we start with the 4th industrial revolution. Okay, I think we've come from the first where we talk about the steam engine, steam engine, and then we talk about electricity, mass production era, and then we talk about the 3rd industrial revolution, which is computer, but not the way we know AI in this Internet of Things today. So Stephen, I want to ask you, what is this 4th industrial revolution and how is it different from the first 3?
Yes, thank you, Junia. That's an interesting question. I did a bit of research. I Googled, this is a summary of what is 4th industrial revolution. So it says 4th, it's the 4th time. Revolution refers to industrial revolutions, and things have changed drastically during that period. To understand the difference, let's take a look at the first industrial revolution, which happened in the 18th century. In those days, instead of human effort, it's being replaced by water power. All right. Then we have steam engines. So for jobs, it becomes easier, less laborious. Yeah, that's a major change for first industrial revolution. For second industrial revolution, it happens during the 19th century. Yeah, here you introduce we have electricity. So we have industrial revolution on production lines. So people work in production lines, and as a result, jobs become more productive because you have electricity now. For the 3rd industrial revolution, it happened in 1960s. Yeah, we have the computer technologies and electronics, the use of electronics. So now for jobs, you need to learn how to use tools. And these tools make our job more efficient and more effective. As for 4th industrial revolution, well, it's the advancement of digital technologies. Yeah, it's not just the technology advancement, because now you are dealing with machines, smart factories, machines that can AI, they can learn, they can communicate with each other through Internet of Things, and we will be working with them. Yeah, so that's a big impact on our job. So who knows, Junior, in future, in your panel here, you may have a robot sitting here and answer your questions.
So it will be hologram, right? From wherever we are, we don't even have to physically come. We just beam up.
Yes. Yeah. So it's amazing. Not only human can can learn now, machine can learn.
Yes.
So this is an interesting world we are facing, and it affects our future, it affects our jobs. Yeah, that's a brief summary of what I get.
Thank you so much, Stephen. And I think it's critical, right? Because I think a lot of systems, whether our education system or even our different systems, have actually come from the first, second, and third, support the first, second, and third revolution. So for example, you know, the Henry Ford, the factory, everybody go through a fixed curriculum so that, you know, you come out a fixed cookie cutter approach. And we are asserting that it may no longer serve our next generation. Because if we talk about thinking, computers compute at a fraction faster and more accurate than us, right? Yes. And really the memorization model is no longer relevant, because I tell my kids Google, but I will teach you how to connect the dots. That's more important. I'll teach you how to be resourceful, how to create. But rote learning may not be as important. Okay, so let's continue to put forth this kind of conversation. So May, you talk about the air era and that we just shifted away from the earth. If you can share a bit more about how that's so different.
I think just now when Junior talked a little bit about the first, second, third industrial revolution, I actually take a very different view because my background is in astrology, and this air era that Junior has just mentioned is it's a shift of a human consciousness. So basically, to me, it's not 1, 2, and 3, and 4 revolutions. In fact, the first 3 are in one category of basically producing things that are bigger, better, faster, more productive. It was all about getting more things. So if you look at, like, in the past, retail was huge. Everything that we produce goes through that selling process. But if you look at the new ways that people are selling, let's take Kickstarter, for example. Now it's not a matter of like how many quantity of the product you are producing, but how innovative, how interesting is it? So when Junior talk about things like that creativity, at least I think it's the one thing that robot cannot do yet. It's like, yes, eventually the AI will get to machine learning to the point that they can create things better than humans can. But at least in this period of about 20-year period, if we just focus on making things bigger, like, you know, iPhone, new iPhone come out, the screen is just bigger, but there's no new functionality. Nobody is really innovating. So it's like actually this fourth industrial revolution is more about it's a concept-based thing and less about the productivity. And I think one other big difference that people are going to have to realize is in this industrial revolution, last time it used to be that because it's profit-based, you will make money. And therefore, your boss is a person or a company. You have to make your company happy, otherwise you lose your job. But I think in the new world, look at Kickstarter. Your new paymaster is not one person. Your new paymaster is the society. And if what you produce is very interesting to everyone, not just your own country people, when it's put on the internet, anyone can buy it. So that is why I think people need to start thinking a lot like entrepreneurs rather than employees in this new revolution, and that's my thing.
Yeah, I think it's very different. And even when we draw the 3 concentric circles, it used to be about profit. A business survive because of profit. And then we added a different circle. People are important.
Yes.
But now it's not just this two. It's really about a purpose. And the purpose is individual's purpose. Can I align with your company values? And if yes, I'm aligned with you. And money, pay, a lot of other things matter less. Yes. It's no longer. So it's that sweet spot between the 3 concentric circles that matter, yeah.
Even this concept about the job scope, right? It's a very old-fashioned thing, really. It's like, you know, job description, all the bullet points. Nowadays, if you really go and interview some of these very young people in their early 20s, they don't care about the job scope. They're like, what's the vision for your company? Like, how responsible are you to the society? You know, the questions, no, it's the other way around. Like,
I don't know who's doing the interviewing. I think it's both ways.
It's a both ways thing, but at the same time, the questions that are coming up are so different from what they used to be. Last time it used to be so Monday to Friday, what time to what time?
Yes,
and nowadays it's not. They don't mind working at 2 a.m.
Yes, and we actually covered that, I think on day 2 or 3, where we look at the millennials, their mindset is very different. And let's just say the bigger companies are wondering why there's a disconnect, right? Where they can't seem to attract the millennial workforce, because the millennials are not looking for security as much as they are looking for what's your purpose, what's your meaning. You know, that's more important for them. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, May. And CHELVIN, the question for you, right? How does the future of jobs and skills look like in the 4th industrial revolution? Because 10 years ago, we didn't have SkillsFuture, right? But I think it's beautiful that our country has decided to come. Let's reskill and upskill everyone. So if you can share what you're doing.
The SkillsFuture movement started in 2014, I think.
2014.
Yeah, okay, so it's about 6-7 years now, right? So I think what's important and what's the biggest shift is no longer can plan for a job environment where we can see very clearly. So you're really planning for the skills, prepare people for jobs that you don't really know today. Right? So the question there is, what kind of skills do you want to prepare, right? And there's always a risk that you prepare and then they come out and the skill sets are not what the industry requires. Exactly. And then that takes, it can easily take 4 years, right, to come out from the university, and that could be a big labor shortage or skills mismatch later on. So I think the question will be then, how do we anchor on the critical skills that we think all Singaporeans should have, all citizens should have, whether or not it's for a job, it's for a career, it's for employability, it's for employment, it's for your personal satisfaction. What are the critical core skills? And I think in SSU, what we call them is our critical core skills. Right? Really, it's about how we think critically. And I think for computers, you can program it, you can do machine learning, but it doesn't have the cognitive ability that individuals, people have. The soft skills, the ability to empathize. Right? How do you think, look at situation, look at environment, and think critically, right? The other part that really is quite different is how we interact with others, which I think computers can't do, machines can't do, and how we, increasingly, whether or not it's in a team that you work in, organizations that you work with, it's with your suppliers that you work with, it's with your colleagues that you work with, it's with your peers, or not within a formal line of authority, but informal lines. There's going to be a lot of partnerships where you can get everybody's synergy. And I think that's what the youngsters are looking for, right? How do you get into this community and you learn together? And then as we learn together, I think that challenges them. It's not so much a work scope, it's not even a challenge. It's the excitement from the work that challenges them, right? And then the third one is how we stay relevant. And this is really one critical part because it's about how agile we are in learning, how we manage ourselves. When we fail, how do we pick up? When we see certain job scopes that are in front of us, we've never done digital marketing for the first time, your boss throws you the assignment, how do you manage it? How do you learn from your friends? How do you pick up from your failure? And how do you learn from different mediums, right? Today there's so many mediums that we work with. Google, you can get you some information, but it's what there's key information. How do you actually learn from applications, skills application at work, right? And how do you learn from the workplace? How do you learn from role models, your supervisors, for example? So I think these are the three areas: thinking critically, interacting with others, and staying relevant. That's going to help us as citizens and individuals stay ahead. Whether it's the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth of division, these will be skills that we all must have, to help us to pivot and repivot. Yeah.
I love what you share about the critical thinking, and then about collaborative skills. And the third one, I think when you talk about learning, having the attitude, that growth mindset. So I want to pivot this, right, and point it to, because I think a lot, Stephen, because I think quite a lot of individuals complain, I must learn new things. Why must I do this? Why can't I just keep within my job scope, right? And there is, so Stephen, let's talk about mental models today, right? Because I think while the world has shifted, the greatest struggle for individuals is, must I learn this? Can I? Yeah.
Must I learn this?
So can you share with us, why do you think there's a gap?
Yeah, I mean there's gap because as human, we always like to do the same thing. Yeah, we are routine people. You go to the same shop to cut your hair. You go to the same school every day. You meet the same people. I think that nobody really like to be disrupted. Yeah, so I think we all have to develop new mindsets. I think there will be two. One is adopt lifelong learning. Yeah, enjoy learning. You will realize that life is an exciting learning journey. So lifelong learning. So keep learning, keep enjoying learning new things because things change along the way. Secondly, is be very, very adaptive to new situation. It's VUCA world. That's what they say out there. Very volatile, very uncertain, very complex, and very ambiguous situation that we face during this fourth industrial revolution. So be adaptive, have fun. All right, enjoy the change. Be ready to embrace the change that comes to us. I think the more flexible we are, the better we are.
And thank you for bringing up, you know, the VUCA world, which is so real. I think one of the struggle of a lot of us is really what we call front-end loading. We are so used to the first 20 years of my life, I study. Then the next, however long of my life, I work, right? So the thought, and it was such a not so enjoyable process for so many people that the thought of going back to studies, there seems to be almost an aversion because we were trained to not enjoy studying or education in that. So, sorry?
Information download.
Yes, it was just information, and then you get scolded for being wrong, and then you get and then your creative ideas are not appreciated. Please color the grass green, you know, not purple. And you know, we unknowingly, but I think it serves a purpose because Singapore has the highest literacy rate. We have the best education system in Asia, right? So I think it has really brought us to a level, and it may not be sufficient to bring us to the next few levels. So I love when we talk about lifelong learning, where it's an attitude, the journey of, so for example, like me, I'm interested in astrology. So go into it, dive into it, because I believe that every individual is very unique. And if we find our uniqueness, not I do this particular netball because my mother wants me to, or ballet because my mother didn't get a chance to, it actually frees the individual to be a contribution to society. And I think that's what the heart is about here. So May, if you can share with us, right, what are certain era concepts that are so different that, you know, at least for a lot of parents and our viewers, we can begin to understand our children better, because that's really our intention.
Actually, okay, I was just sort of listening to what a lot of people were saying about this relevance, we have to keep up. And I'm just thinking it can be a very old-fashioned kind of thinking. Because you see, when we come down to here are the 4 things that you must know, and then you have to go and do it. So if you don't have it, means it's like last time, right? Don't have O levels. Walao, die already. You know what? Malu, it's like you will next time cannot do it. And I think it's more like but this idea of, I think people are so 5 kg leg, like the leg cannot move, right? It's because it's being prescribed to them. It's like someone come and tell you, hey, you must go and do this. Go and finish up your O levels. And that's why all the kids are like, I don't really want to do it. But I think it's very different when learning is very self-directed.
Yes.
And I think when people are doing the learning thing because I need to survive. If I don't do this, I'll die. Later I got no job, how? So if it's from that kind of mindset, right, it becomes an obligation. You must do it. And then people are like, why? Why should I? But I think it's very different when, if you think about, say, you look at someone like Elon Musk. You know, he wasn't trained to be a rocket scientist, you know. That's not his background. And it's not like he was thinking like, now I got this company, now I must go and learn rocket. No, you see his eyes light up. It's like, I'm excited, and we do this because we want to make a possibility happen. If 5,000 people study this, and then we put what we have learned together, we build a rocket. You know, that's the kind of energy that we're looking for. And I think what most people are not focusing on, they're focusing on their survival. I don't want to die. But the thing is, they are not producing anything that's positive. The 出发点 in Chinese we say, where you start from was never a positive place. It's like when we start off with that things are going to change, everything change is bad. Then I can tell you this whole transition will be very painful for you. But I think we want to look at if you didn't have a job now. So people are like, what, I got no job, right? But no. Think about this. If you got no job, now you can do anything. You can do anything. There isn't a boss that tells you what to do. There isn't a bullet point that you have to follow. And which means if you want to build a rocket, go build a rocket. You want to start an organization, start an organization. Look up. I think what people need to do is look out there in the world and see what's necessary. Don't feel like you have to go and take this course because someone said you have to do a course. You know what I mean? That's my thing.
I hear, and together with what you're saying, right, I want to draw the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because I think years ago, right, Singapore, right, if we go back a decades ago, we were surviving, you know, and really, I think the government did what they did, and we did they led us through an amazing journey, right? But we have since moved up the hierarchy where our needs, right, from security to psychological to safety to social needs become more of an importance, and then we move on to self-esteem. Am I recognized for who I am? That desire to be unique, that desire for my voice to be heard, for myself, and then at the apex, right, self-transcendence, what am I here on earth to contribute? I may not be what my mom wants me to do, what my boss or even my partner is used to in terms of security, but there is something burning within me to begin to voice out at the next level, you know. So I think as we begin to just look at, as we begin to just look at, maybe we are at this level now, you know, and understanding that at societal level, because Singapore is a lot more affluent, but at the same time, there are people who are struggling because of a loss of job, right? And I think that's the reality. So even with a loss of job, which is survival level, because, you know, that it would be irresponsible to, how do we adopt a growth mindset and apply it, CHELVIN, in not shying away from change, but embracing change?
So I must say, I think our population is, we've all got different aspirations. And I think coupled with your own skill sets, your aspirations, we are all a very different group of individuals, right? And you are different, I'm different, we come from different backgrounds, we've got different goals, right? And some, like people, like what May said, some do start at the lower level because of the environment. Some are a bit higher up in their Maslow. The question is whether we are able, no matter what environment you start out with, you see the possibility, like what May says, right? And I think many of times when we talk to job seekers out there, you can see a big difference, right? There's some with the same starting point, but they see, like, for example, they see what transferable skills that they already have in the past, that they think that, hey, this is something that I can leverage on and I can move forward. So, for example, we were talking to this lady who was caring for his father for many years, right? Staying at home, caring for his father. And because of that, she found there's a lot of meaning in a caregiver job. And then she went over to one of the hospital now. She started to do a course in one of our WSQ courses, right, in healthcare support. Now she's in a hospital helping, and she sees a lot of meaning in that. And that to her was one of the pivot. She found her true north in that sense, right? And you can take small steps like that. And there were some other individuals who feel that in their line of work, you need to deep skill, because especially in the IT world, for example, you need to constantly stay ahead, right? So then you can, you know, take on certain courses and keep you, in a sense, more competitive in a sense. And then you can look at yourself, not just in Singapore, but the world is your horizon. You can take on gig jobs, not just here, but in the region. There's a lot of demand for some of these very priority skills that we talk about. So I think it's really about how you see the possibility and where you start from. And where you start from is it's whether you see half empty or half full. I mean, it sounds cliche, but I think in many of our mid-careerists today, it really is that question. It's about have I built up in my course of my career so far. And I think today also one critical factor was, I think our past education might not have prepared us for constant repivots. Because back to your point about the first 20 years of study, and depending on when we retire, right now retirement age is 70, 60, 67, there's easily 50 years of working, right? Do you expect the first 20 years to be able to last us for 70 years? Frankly, you ask me, I've half forgotten what I learned in my undergrad.
I think more than half of me.
Yeah.
Seriously, right? Like, but I think what was important is I remember the part about how I learned to learn.
Yeah.
It's about your thinking mindset. How do you learn, pick up new things along the way? How you learn from peers, how you interact with your peers, right? Because that helps you to learn. And I think that part is what we probably need to help to and strengthen the ecosystem. So you can go in and out. We call it on and off ramps. Anytime in your 50 years, you can go in and out, and you can learn at the workplace. If you think about it, if the workplace is your learning ground, then actually it's not about learning and working separately. It's learning and working together. And I think that's the beauty of it. And I think that is the key difference in today's industrial revolution compared to the past. Yeah, and if you think about it, that actually is 70 years of learning. It's just learning where.
I love that perspective that you give us, right? Because then now our life as a human being is work in progress until the day I die, right?
Exactly.
Where it's no longer just, phew, throw my mortar board into the sky and I'm done, you know? But it's really, hey, it's really in moving on throughout. And one of the conversations I had even in my family, you know, university was seen as it, right? The
Yeah.
top 5%. So when we were having this conversation, my husband was asking my daughter, so you want to go poly? Immediately in my mind, I'm like, no, poly is a dumping ground. That's how old I am, okay? But then because I do so much of this work, I caught that thought. And I was like, you know, let me understand what options are available. What do you want to do? What is your interest? What excites you to deepen your understanding, your knowledge in? And so I told her, hey, what do you want to do? And so I think the conversation comes from a very different, must go uni, must go uni. And then we just box it at such an early age. Today I'm more, it's no longer a dumping ground. There are no dumping grounds. Even if you take the route less traveled, go and enjoy, because each of us have different races to run. Who is to say that everybody needs to be a CEO or a director? I mean, if you are happy being doing admin or starting your own, then let that quality of life be yours to own. There is no need to chase after that golden calf.
Actually, I wanted to add on to what Shelvin said just now. As she was speaking, it struck me, right? A lot of people think of learning as a cost. That means I have to go and spend this time. I must spend like 5 figures to go to a university.
Your training hours, yes.
Yeah, and see, when we think of it as a cost, then our automatic the reaction is to get a return on investment. So if I'm going to spend, if the word is to spend 5 years to go and learn something, then what do I earn out of it? And I think that kind of mindset makes people very super selective about, like, I only want to learn the things that confirm can make money on. And it means that they are not open to this idea of exploring grounds that have not been explored before. And I think there's no enjoyment.
Yeah.
When you think of, like, you have to spend is a cost, right? Then you go for class, then you're just like, I must pass this exam, later I don't pass how, then I must take again, then I must spend money again. It's like, it's a cost that makes people feel so like, but there's no enjoyment at all in the learning, which I think is something that we can all work on. Yeah, isn't it so fun to go and explore something that you have never seen before? Like, whoa, I think people have lost that. And I think education system make it such that there's no wonder. It's only about exam, make sure you pass.
I want to add on to that. Interestingly, 2 days ago, I was talking to Dawn, our CNA moderator, right? She was interesting. She said, if you think about it, right, nobody wakes up in the morning and asks, what is your skills account? You would think about, what's the amount in my bank account, right? And how do I grow my assets in my bank account, right? But you don't really think about what is in your skills account. Because actually, if you think about it, that's the currency that you have to grow your careers. Career could be a job, it could be a business that you have. It's basically something your passion. How do you grow your skills account based on what you put in and see it and deliberate intent to help it grow? I think we don't have that mindset today. Yeah, and if you think about it, that is what you can invest in yourself for the future. And yet we don't think about it. Yeah.
I love what you talk about skills, right? The distinction you draw, because I think skills are very different from head knowledge. Because the analogy I would give is like a tempo. You may have a lot of head knowledge, and I may go for a lot of courses, but that does not mean I know how to work those muscles, right? I may go for example, I mean, so many courses, right? Like to learn how to be a carpenter, for sure. But if I don't literally take out the saw and do my hours, because it takes 10,000 hours, right, for me to be a master, I will only have that knowledge in my head. So literally, we have to jump into the pool to then, okay, so this is how it feels like, so scary. And then we discover, because some things I assert are caught, not taught. Like buoyancy is a point that once you get it, you get it. It's experiential learning, and hey, I got it. Once we balance, we catch balance, it will stay with you forever. And then we hone it, right? Balance with no hands, with one hand, and do. Yeah, so then I think it's very, very different. So if we were to move the conversation to skills, Stephen, which skills would you say is most critical in this?
In terms of skills, I think the first and most important thing is your technical skill, your professional skills. For example, I'm a business mentor. Of course, mentoring skills. I'm also a trainer. I need to know how to design a training program. I need facilitation skills. So it depends on your profession. I think technical skills still remain the first most important skills that you need to have. The second area of skills that's important is soft skills. Yeah, ability to think critically is important. You need to look at what you have, what you need to do. I think that's one. In terms of soft skills, I think you need also to able to interact with people, work with different people. It's a diversified world. People have different views. How do you interact well, interacting with others? I think this is another skills. The third one, I think, is skills to make sure that you stay relevant to the world. All right. Yeah. So, for example, adaptive to change and things like that. So these are skills that are equally important. Yeah. So your technical skill plus your soft skills. Yeah.
I love what you talk. You didn't just talk about technical and soft skills, but I think I love your third one, which is the attitude. I think while we call it a skill, but I think it's literally an attitude. How do we respond to changes?
Yeah.
Because in this VUCA world, right, the volatility that will come is not whether I want or I don't want. It's going to come. It's my reaction. We know, right? An egg, coffee, and potato in hot water. That analogy.
That's right.
3 different objects we put under the same conditions. One comes out hard, right? One comes out soft, very, very soft. And then the potato becomes very soft. Very what? The egg comes out hard. But the coffee, wow, the aroma of it. And then it literally spreads across beyond just that small coffee beans. Right? And I think that's what we intend to, it's really an attitude that we begin to adopt as parents now, so that we can begin to model that for our next generations.
Julie, I'm just going to point out to your analogy, right? But what's key in the analogy is you need to give it time.
Yes.
You need to give it time for the aroma to come up.
Yes.
And you cannot expect the aroma to come up quite immediately. And I think today in our society, we sort of expect it to be quite instantaneous, right? And I think also to a lot of our younger generation, we need to give it time, right? Even in our course of work, my team, right, we rewrote ourselves totally. You cannot find a job role called a job skills analyst. We have a team of 15 of them. We rewrote ourselves, right? We jump into it, we figure out the boundaries ourselves, right? The question is, we need to give ourselves time. We give ourselves 1 year, right? It was a 3-year journey. We give ourselves 1 year. But during the course, it was very difficult. But you have to press on. So that is that soft skill, and that is the resilience, I think. We need to have it in us to even though you don't see you don't see it in front of you yet, but you believe in it. You know it's behind it. Once you cross it, you will reach there. One of the days, you just have to touch on the determination, the perseverance.
I love what you say, right? Because very often now in yesterday, instantly gratified, well, it should have been done yesterday or 1 week ago. We tend to be impatient, I think, with ourselves. And I think sometimes we demand so much of ourselves because of all the many years of tapes that has been ingrained, that maybe, like what you say, we need to be compassionate on ourselves first. Exactly. And as we choose to be compassionate on ourselves, we give ourselves that space to enjoy the process, to not keep chasing, to be a rat, like just chasing and chasing and chasing. It's such a tiring way to live life, right?
You mentioned about critical skills, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so SkillsFuture has a critical core skill framework. Yeah, so it covers 3 areas which I just has described. I thought I want to elaborate a bit more on thinking critically. Under thinking critically, I think we need to have creative thinking skills, especially that there's lots of opportunity. And then after that, you have lots of ideas. You need to have good decision skills, right? Make good decision, problem-solving skills as you implement your solutions. And at the same time, you need to make sure that whatever you do makes sense, and consider transdisciplinary skills as well. So that's the first 5 that are identified by SkillsFuture. In terms of interacting with others, I think the first skill is embrace diversity. That's one. Learn to collaborate, learn to communicate, learn to serve your customer well, learn to help to develop your colleagues and people around you, and also influence them. So that's the second 6 skills that identified. And the last one is stay relevant. The skills is to be adaptive to change, to learn the digital skills, and have a global mindset. And most importantly, the last one that's identified is self-management. Take good care of yourself during this during this transition. And I thought that is something quite a complete model that's been identified. And I think it would be good to implement in our work in our life.
Actually, I want to sort of say something about this concept of skills. I think so far in the last 200 years, when we talk about skills, right, it's like a course that you attend. It's like, do you have problem solving skills. I think you should attend a problem solving course. I think you should attend a critical thinking course. I mean, so honestly, right, does anyone actually learn critical thinking from a course? You don't sit in a classroom for 3 days and then suddenly now you can critical thinking, is it? So it's like, I don't think we need to think of critical skills as like, you know, you have a box and then, oh, I acquired this skill. That's acquired this skill in my box. I'm like, seriously? I think people need to really broaden their idea. So I think in terms of skill sets, I think from my experience as a business owner, and for example, we talk about building a web page. Then maybe somebody can go attend a course to how to use this software, how to put the photograph there, how to insert a video. All those are tasks. You know what I mean? It's tasks. But the thing is, if for a business owner, when I pay for a website, I know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that person who can understand the design. It can convey the space, the grandeur, or whatever it is that you need the website to do. You need a website to be fun. And the thing is, you cannot go attend a course to how to make a website fun. Seriously, I think what we want to focus on is a person's natural abilities. If somebody is naturally a fun person, they look at the website, they go like, oh, can we have color here? Can we have like a fun mini game here? You see, so the thing is, if you are not a fun person, you go for 10 courses and you cannot make a website fun. You know what I mean? Some people have the design ability, some people have the engineering ability. And I think what needs to happen first and foremost, okay, because I think what's going to happen in this country and in many other countries, a big danger is that once we start to think that skill is the number one thing, that here are the 10 skills, you better go and pick them off one by one, right? It's like everyone is, you say they're very quiet and they're all willing to do the thing. They will just go for the course, and the expectation is now that I take these 10 things off, I will be okay. And let me tell you, you will not. You will not. Just by having 10 certificates, sorry, you are past the point of certificates. One test, no certificate already. So the point here is that people need to really go and look at what is it that you want to do. Yes. And then after that, if necessary, sometimes experience is better than attending a course. Right. Just go and join the industry, get some low-level projects going just to get your feedback. Talk to the people who are actually doing things. And then maybe you decide that, okay, now we need a website, but I don't know how to insert a video. Then can you go and do a 10-minute online course? How to insert a video? You know, there's such a thing, right? You can actually go and find how to insert a video. You don't need to attend a 5-day course, how to do a website. Because at that moment, you just need to know how to insert the video. And then you do it. Or better still, go and find someone who's very good at inserting videos and ask that person who's very good at inserting videos, because it will take them 2 minutes. It will take you 2 hours.
And still nowhere close to what they are doing.
You insert the video wrong size, don't know what.
And then redo and redo. And
what you do is you go to fiverr.com and then you just pick anybody there, just anyhow pick one person and say, I'm hopeless at putting in videos. Can you help me? And the guy says, no problem. He does it, and he does it in 2 minutes.
I love what you're sharing, May, because I think your starting point is again what we've been talking about. It's but how do I say this? It's like we are so fearful of not being enough. And I think that's the main backdrop of where it comes from, that we try to accumulate all this, whether it's certification or courses, and it's just more trophies to hopefully make myself feel better. But like the tadpole, right? My head may be very big, but quite a mutant, right? Because my body is not, and it will limit where I go, how I progress. So I think what you're talking really is about the starting point is really valuing that human individual. Who are you, CHELVIN? What's your personal interest? And to celebrate that, especially for our next generation, like for Stephen, right? You enjoy, and you saw even before that, digital may be it for you. But for you, it may be something very different. For me, it's something very different. But I think a lot of us and society at large, there seems to be a fear to step out, especially if it's not mainstream. We tend to want to follow the main jobs that are available. And if mine is a bit different, cannot 赚钱. So I'm going to ask you, right, May, how do we balance, right, between the practicalities? Like, I love to draw. Let's just use the artist comparison. But my mother tell me no future, and I want to put the context, it's no more just in Singapore. Yes, I get that was true maybe 20, 30 years ago. But today we are talking about a globalization. Yes. So the world is actually your customer.
Yes.
I love being asked that question because it's like in my profession, people come all the time and they say, oh, if I'm good at this, but then can I make money, Can I survive?
The fear is there.
So let me explain that. You see, going back to what I said earlier, if your focus is, am I relevant? Am I secure? or can I make money? That means, can you see it starts from me, whether I will be okay or
Yeah.
not. And the thing is, as long as we keep on this conversation or keep talking about being relevant, we are actually forcing people to think about their survival. I think we need to remove that word. Like, stop asking people to are you relevant? Are you relevant? Because it incites fear and it makes people selfish. It means I need to be relevant and survive first. But you see, say if you're an artist, you're very good at drawing Japanese manga, let's just say, and the kid is really talented, genuinely. Then the question to ask is, who will benefit from the manga? You see, so are there companies that are doing, say, Japanese products, and they love to have a lot of these graphics all over on their packaging, on their website? Would a company like that pay a talented artist to draw manga? I think yes, you know. And if you're very good, you can earn a lot of money from drawing manga, you know. So my point here is that if you stop focusing on yourself, focus on who is out there in the community that could really appreciate the skill that you have. And then when you focus on serving that community, how can you not make money?
Yeah.
And how can you not be relevant?
Yeah.
I love how you come from that, right? Because I always say there are two main emotions, fear or love. If I'm into learning something, and it's not just allowing my love for something to take me to new heights, but I think the other thing is, am I solving a problem?
Yes.
How am I being a contributor? How am I adding value? And when we come from that space, I think then there's nothing to fear anymore.
No.
Because from sweeping the floor, two persons cleaning the floor. One can do it for the sake, it's my job, Lord, just clean for the sake of cleaning, Lord. Clock in, clock out, done. Another one can be, you know, the analogy, hey, it's dirty. Can I get a mop? Even if it's not part of my job, over and above excel, because excellence makes me happy.
And innovation comes from there. They find better ways of doing things because they know their job best.
And it's that joy, right, that they bring, that attitude, that quality, that flavor, that is irreplaceable, that becomes then distinctively me, because I do it a different way. So there's a difference. After I clean, you know, the challenge I always give my kids, and I love what you say, because I believe that it starts from home. It's not something that you can give someone a course and now perform. It doesn't work like that. But if we give our children opportunities and ourselves opportunities to fail and fail and fail and learn to discover what I like and I don't, and what I'm good at and what I can get better, I think that space is what we tend to not give ourselves. And then we just fit ourselves back into the mold because it's already easier, instead of coming out to give ourselves that space to learn, right? Because as we give ourselves that space to learn, I think it becomes something that is natural, almost automatic. You put me into whichever industry or whichever circumstance, I will flourish.
But I have to add that there's two parts of it, which I think our audience will relate to it. One is ourselves. One is the environment that you're in, right? And the environment that you're in, I must say today, not many employers give you that space to learn, right? The space to create and the space to make mistakes. Not everybody sees it positively, right? Some people are, I mean, especially businesses who are smaller, leaner, to them cost is very important, right? So if you make mistakes, then does it cost the company any cost, right? So I think when we also did a quick survey recently, right? We surveyed employers versus employees. The employers feel that 50% of the employees are not ready for change. On the other hand, when we interview the employees, 70% of them felt that they were ready. They're doing change. I'm good enough. So there are different perspectives. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think today, really, where any of us are in the situation, is what is that sweet spot that you can find in that particular situation. It could be an environment where your employer is very conducive, the workplace is very conducive, and that's the best, right? That's the best way you can make your workplace a learning environment, and that's where you will flourish for sure. And as you flourish, you show to the people around you that learning is so fun, and you can benefit from learning while working, right, and making money. The other example, there are other situations where it's a little bit less, but I suppose the idea of yours about, you know, even if you are sweeping the floor, I remember one of those days when I was in Japan, right, and they were just sweeping the floor, and I saw the sweepers, in a sense, they just created very, very nice motifs on the floor with the dried leaves. Right, and when you talk to them, they have so much pride in their work. You know, it doesn't mean this is a menial job, this doesn't pay me well, but this is what makes me independent. I can feed myself. At the same time, this is, you know, people admire what I can create. I think that is the personal pride that everybody should have, whichever where you are, and it could be admin job, it could be a receptionist job, but how well do you, what is the personal branding, right? When you put yourself in front of the phone and you answer the call, the person next to you, do you want to make the person feel like this is, make the person feel good at the start of the day, right? So it's the personal branding and what is the impact you want to make in the little position that you have. And everybody has that chance to do it.
Actually, I have a very broad perspective on that, right? Because going by what Shelvin said, if a lot of employers are not prepared to allow their employees to change, and the employees are ready, then the logical next thing that will happen is that these employees are going to have very, very hard time hiring people. Because then if you offer people a box and they want to work in a box, then they will not take the job. So eventually the job process has to change. So either the company will close down because they can't find staff, or the employees decide that, well, I want to do it my way, and if I go and market my services online to the direct consumer, so be it, because there's YouTube and there's Kickstarter now. So it's like, if people, I think going by what Shelvin
It's the other way around.
Yeah, it's a bit of the other way around. And I think for each individual, if you are, I just broadly say job seeker. At this point, all job seekers in the world have to make a decision. Do you want a nice guaranteed salary, or do you want the self-actualization? Because if you want the self-actualization and you want to do it your way, consider that with the internet now, you can sell anything to anyone, to the audience that you choose, in the way that you choose, just like that. There are 7-year-olds that are running businesses online. And if you're an adult and you're 47, you can't do it, right? A 7-year-old can do it. So that's the thing is, but if what you wanted was the guaranteed salary, I want confirm every month $5,000, then you want that person to pay you. Here's the thing, then you do what they tell you to do. Correct. I think that's fair, right? I mean, if you want them to pay that box, you fit in that box. Yeah, but if you want to, you take the job, then you cannot complain that now they force me to do it this way.
Because it was a choice that you made.
Yes, because you want the freedom, you have the choice to do a freedom. Go on YouTube, sell it directly. So sell for $1 to 5,000 people, you will make a $5,000. Okay? Right? So the thing is, for me, it's like, I think when it comes down to this concept of like general complaining about jobs, is that people must take that responsibility. You want the money, you have to do what you do. Yeah.
I love what you talk about, and you talk about ownership.
Yes.
I think very often, instead of owning my life and how it looks, whether it starts from studies or my skills upgrade and the quality of my life, we tend to blame, right?
Yes.
Not doing
Easier,
enough.
Easier to blame.
It's so easier, but that is literally living below the line. And when we choose to live below the line, that is the maximum ceiling that we will go to. But if we choose to come up and say, hey, you know what, it is on me, I'm going to take responsibility to create, we literally push ourselves. Initially, it will be scary, right? I'm sure when you first started to come up on yourself, it's scary. But if you choose to go beyond the uncomfortable zone, you go into that breakthrough zone where it's magic, right? Literally happening. So I think really a lot of parents, even as we watch this, right? I think we may be the sandwich generation where we have the old school thinking and yet we want something better for our children. And as we want something better, it's to really ask ourselves, how can we change and model opportunities for our children at home to keep failing? But because the more times you fail, the faster you pick yourself up, the more you become very adept at how do I then reinvent myself quickly or provide value, solve problems for people. And if we allow and teach our children that when they're young, when they grow up, right? In fact, we don't even need to wait for them to grow up. It is, to me, household chore is one of the basic starting points where you are a contributor, you make a difference. So start, at home, right? And then when you do the quality of job, after you clean the mirror, is there like your signature print? Done by me, with pride. It starts from small things like that. But then, like what you said earlier, Stephen, creatures of habit, right? After a while, excellence becomes my middle name. In whatever I do, right, there is a standard of excellence and ownership. I think the biggest thing is when we own what we do, it's at a different level already. Yeah. And Stephen,
I just wanted to update the audience and everybody the latest development in the training and learning industry. I'd just like to share you the work we have changed. For trainers, we no longer design training courses. We design learning experience, learning journey.
Wow.
We don't just classroom training. It's just to give you the basic foundation skills that you are ready to learn. We use blended learning approach. So we use mentoring. All right. We help companies to design workplace learning system and buddy system where learning becomes part of work. Yeah, so there are lots of ways that we use methods like social learning. Yeah, so after that, so you can blend the learning approach. So learning does not stop after the course. In fact, yeah. So learning becomes part of work, part of business. So L&D functions has changed.
Right.
Yeah. Secondly, for individual, for us to learn, we are very purposeful in our learning. There are many ways we learn. I learn from Google. I learn from in the community. I form peer learning groups. So if I want to learn how to organize event like what Julia has done, I don't attend a course. The fastest way is to buy her a coffee. Then the next moment, within 2-3 hours, I can learn that. So yes, you are right. Classroom give you the basic learning, but down the road, you have your community learning to support you as you apply the knowledge. That's where the real learning is. So it's about integrating the whole system for the company, for corporates when they design a learning system. For individual, we ask what is the best method. Yes, so things have changed in this sector as well.
I love how relevant you are, because what I'm hearing is the application and the customization. Because in experiential learning is where the individual, four of us may be playing the same game, but what you take away and each of us is so different, because I realize, I need to work on my people skills. Example, yours, I need to own my voice more, for example. So each of us, right, take away something that's unique for me. So I'm one up after that, not just what the teacher tells me, right? And I think that is, that's wonderful, even as I hear that customization. Yeah. Okay, so if we were to move this on, right? Given, we have limited time, which skills would we say, whether it's an attitude, and I think that is also a skill, would you say is most critical that you would want to leave our audience with? What is that one actionable skill or tip or advice that you want to say? Anyone?
I think what's most important, right, is don't focus on acquiring a skill first. Yeah, because otherwise people will just, go and sign up for course without knowing why you are there. I think first of all, is if you go for an individual and higher Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is that for however many more years you are going to be in the workforce, what change would you like to see in the world? It can be in a technology field, it can be in a social field, it can be in the artistic or creative field. It doesn't matter what it is that you want to do. If it's food, and you want to create good food for old people with no teeth to chew, for example, is that a good vision? I think it's a good vision. And then from there, if you know that is the outcome, then maybe you need to learn a bit about food processing. Maybe you need to learn about how to make things taste nice. Maybe you want to learn a bit about online advertising so that you can sell your old people cannot chew food online. Because the thing is there a market for it? I think there is a market for it, and people appreciate it if you've done a good job. So I think start with what do you want to do with yourself, and what can you contribute? Then you go and think about what skills. Don't start with, I have all these skill sets. Then what can I do from these skill sets to make money? Because then sometimes it's very easy to be very depressed. Then you look at it, this skill nobody want me, this skill nobody want me. Start with what can you do that will be useful. Then you fill in the gaps. Don't know how to do website, go and learn, or find someone to do.
I love how you, in just that tip that you gave us, you sort of like wove in everything that we discussed, where really the starting point is me, right? Like I am a human being. I am no longer a commodity in the first 3 revolutions, right? Where I was just a machine almost to fill in a particular position. But today it's really the celebration of us as individual human beings, not doings, not machines, but as a human being, right? What is my gift to this world? And as I own that, right? And then I look in for the gaps that to plug in. Yeah, so I think that's wonderful. Yeah, thank you, May.
For me, I feel that ask yourself what's your vision in life. Ask yourself what you really want to do in life. Then take massive action to do that. Live each day with a purpose. Why are you going to achieve today? And be very loving and kind to everybody that you meet. And lastly, be thankful what you have with gratitude. So I think being thankful what you have, you really make yourself enjoy your life. Overall, continue learning is important. Continue to share with people what you know. Contribute to other people's life. And finally, I think is the excelling together in a community. You have to relate yourself with the other people. Live in the community, live with your families. I think that is also very important. Yep. That's
I
what
love
affects
the
you.
one keyword I heard is collaboration,
Yes.
which is very different from competition. Because I mean, even in primary school, we grow up competing, right?
Yeah.
I got higher marks because there's only one first place,
Yeah,
you know,
correct.
and that mindset, right? While competition is very healthy, I think the heart of having that collaboration, like, hey, I'm happy when you open your business or when you buy your first Ferrari,
yeah.
if that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, the heart of being happy for someone else, I think it's something that many of us don't have, right? We tend to be more inward
Yes.
looking. So I think really, I don't know if this is the air era, but really I see the air era as being bigger in terms of my mindset, my heart, where it's no more just about me as an
Yeah.
individual, but it's really how the human race is evolving and moving
I think
forward.
also this collaboration thing actually reduces the stress for a lot of people. Because if there's a lot of things you don't know how to do, then you feel like you have to go and learn how to do it. Actually, no need. You can just go and have a new team member who will, it's like solved in 5 minutes.
I love what you said, and tomorrow morning, actually, our first session is on the gig economy,
Yeah.
where the gig economy is no longer me just individually, but a few of us can come together for a huge gig, and then we can disband, do our individual, and then we come together as and when, where there's a lot of trust. So I think the currency is really that of trust instead of fear and hiding and keeping, right? So very, very different. Yeah. And CHELVIN?
My parting note would be we need to shift our mindset from being in the ecosystem, being one of the factors in the ecosystem, to knowing what action you can take, to ultimately to the stage of becoming who you want to be. And if you think about it, if that's what you want to be, becoming the potential that you can be, whichever position you are in, then it is a continuous journey, and you will be quite focused because you know what you want to do, what you want to become, and when in the becoming stage, you will start to be a lot more comfortable where you are. Comfortable, confident, compassion comes with it. Because you're comfortable in that place, you do know there are gaps, but you own that place now, right? You're comfortable. So I think that's really, as mid-careerists, that would be my parting note. And we all come from that journey ourselves. And I think that will be the trademark, I think, of Singaporeans, of our citizens. If we can reach there, it doesn't matter whether the jobs tomorrow are still relevant. It doesn't matter whether the economy is still relevant, because we will make a space that we will be relevant. We will be resilient. Yeah, we create that space ourselves.
And I know I said parting, but I realize we still have a bit of time, and I want to cover this one part about jobs, redefining jobs, right? Because I think last time we used to see job as something that gives me security. But as we project now, what would any of you say is the definition or the new working definition of jobs? What would you all say?
It's what values do you create for the people, for your companies, for people you work with? That is the values that you contribute. So jobs now are very flexible. You have full-time job, part-time job, you have freelancer, you have contract jobs, and you even have volunteers. Yeah, so you now work anywhere, anytime. Yeah, very flexible.
I think it's more like okay, so I feel like I'm challenging all the words today, right? But it's like I think I want to challenge the word job even.
Yes.
Because when we think of job, we think like we go and show up somewhere and then you do this work and then you get paid every month. Okay, so I think that's again a very old-fashioned idea. It's already not happening. I think in the new world, you want to think of yourself as being personally involved in a project.
Yeah.
So whether or not you are leading the project or maybe you are developing a mobile app, it doesn't matter what your role is. But and I think it's also important to see that once your role is done, say if you are a water filtration engineer and you work for SpaceX, so once they go in there, you install the water filtration thing. After that, we kind of don't need you already. So now you can move on and do another project elsewhere. So it's not like, oh, because I'm an employee, then I got fired. It's the project ended. So now you can go on and bring your filtration expertise to another technical project. Yeah, so I think it's more like people need to not think of job per se, but rather you build a capability. And we are constantly thinking, who else can benefit from my ability? And then you go everywhere in the world, offer yourself online, so that you will always be relevant.
I so love that. CHELVIN, anything to add?
I think the only one more point I want to add is a job need not be a regular job, right? It could be a function, it could be a task, a project that you are bringing your experience, your expertise to that to you. It fits the requirements of a job. It pays you. It allows you to be able to apply your skills. That in itself is the same context. Fulfills the same need. So I think if we broaden ourselves to look beyond 9 to 5 jobs, then I think there are a lot more avenues where you can apply your skills, you can build yourself, you can participate in the whole experience.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, CHELVIN. This has been a most interesting panel session, really, because I think we've explored the different terms, whether it comes from skill set, the application, how the government has actually come in to support the entire workforce in upgrading and reskilling ourselves, right? And I think the most important, right, at the end that we all concur on is really individuals to start owning what is, begin with the end in mind, right? Where do I see myself? What is my contribution to this world? And from there, then we backcast. I mean, there's this term, right? Where we backcast and fill in, okay, there's this gap. Do I need to fill it in? If not, then just collaborate with someone else. And then as we backcast, right, then we come backward. So instead of starting from where I am and scrambling, it's really to take time this Christmas, whether alone or with friends who know you best, because I think friends are always very good mirrors. And to just sit there and say, what do I want to do for the next 10, 20 years? And dream and allow ourselves to dream, because I think too often we don't. We just I think up to here can already, but just dream, right? And then slowly decide, what do I want to, and make it happen. Because I think the greatest, right, is it's not just for us as we choose to do that, but we form that collective whole that we begin to move as a nation forward.
That's right.
Yeah. Very, very powerfully. And we set the example for the next generations, instead of being stuck, right, in the first 3 revolutions. So with that, I trust you thoroughly enjoyed today's session. Do stay tuned for our second session where we will have COO. So I think the housewife role has always been seen as housewife, but we challenge that, and now how all professions really are at the next level. So stay tuned, and I will be handing you over to our lovely Charlene, who will be giving away prizes. See you soon. Bye.